Imagine this. You're walking down a busy street, swept up in the whirlwind of your day, noise, people, endless to-do lists, everything competing for your attention. Now, hit pause for a moment. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly stopped? When did you take a deep breath, slowed down, and just existed amidst the constant rush? In the midst of life's hustle, it's easy to lose track of time. We wake up, fall into our routines, and forget to question whether we're really living or just moving through life like robots. Have you ever felt like time is slipping through your fingers, or wondered if there's more to life than just going through the motions? What if we could break free from this autopilot mode and begin living with more awareness, more meaning? Think about it. How much of your day is spent distracted, scrolling on your phone, worrying about things that may never happen? Life often feels like a blur. But what if you could take a step back, see the bigger picture, and truly appreciate the preciousness of every moment? This is where Buddhism comes in. Life is short, and we don't have time to waste. Mindfulness and presence are powerful teachings that can reconnect us to what matters, allowing us to find deeper meaning in the everyday. It's time to awaken from the dream of distraction and start living with purpose. Welcome to Insightful Journey, where we'll dive into how simple Buddhist wisdom can help shift our mindset and lead us to a life of mindfulness, peace, and purpose. But here's a quick thought. Did you know that despite the thousands of views on this channel, only 0.2% of people subscribe? So if you're finding value in this, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. We love hearing from you. Your voice matters. The illusion of time, how we lose ourselves in the clock. Now let's imagine something together. You're standing in front of a large clock, watching the hands tick, tick-tock, tick-tock. Each second that passes feels like it's slipping away, and with it, part of your life. It's easy to feel a sense of urgency, even anxiety. After all, the clock is ticking. But here's a question. Where does all this time go? Why does it always feel like there's never enough? As we rush through life, it feels as though time is something that controls us, rather than something we control. We wake up to an alarm, rush through the day, fall asleep, and repeat the cycle. It's as if time is an enemy, constantly pushing us forward. But is this the true nature of time, or have we simply forgotten how to live in it? Buddhism offers an eye-opening perspective. Time, as we understand it, is an illusion. The clock is just a tool for measurement, yet we've allowed it to dominate our lives. We've become slaves to the ticking clock, planning every second, counting the hours until the weekend or until our next vacation. But in all that planning, we forget the most important thing, the present moment. Think about it for a second. How often do you find yourself waiting for a meeting to end, for the weekend, for a vacation, or for something to change in your life? How much of your life have you spent counting down the days instead of fully experiencing them? Now, take a step back. What if time isn't something we need to rush against? What if instead of measuring our days by the clock, we could learn to flow with it? This is where Buddhist wisdom comes in, particularly the concept of impermanence, the understanding that everything, every moment, and every experience is temporary. This doesn't mean we should fear time or rush through it. It's the opposite. By accepting that time is always moving, we're free to embrace it fully. The truth is, we don't have to wait for the future to find happiness. The present moment is all we really have. Take a deep breath right now. In this very moment, you have everything you need. You don't need to chase the clock. You don't need to worry about what's next. Just be here, in this moment, with yourself. This is where life truly happens. When we learn to live in the present, we begin to notice the small things, the way sunlight filters through trees, the sound of wind in the air, the smile of a stranger. When we stop rushing, we start appreciating. We start seeing life for what it truly is, not for what we think it should be. And as we begin to live in harmony with the flow of time, we stop fighting against it. Think about the last time you were fully present. Maybe it was a quiet moment with a loved one, or when you were engaged in something you truly enjoy. In that moment, you weren't thinking about the future or the past. You were simply living in the now. You were simply there in that moment, and in its simplicity, you found peace. Now let's take a moment to reflect. How much of your day is spent chasing the future? How often do you find yourself looking ahead, hoping that the next moment will bring more fulfillment than the one you're currently in? Compassion, living with heartful intention. In the world today, it's easy to feel disconnected. We're surrounded by noise, chaos, and the constant pressure to keep moving, to keep striving. Yet in the midst of this whirlwind, there is something deeper we often overlook: the power of compassion. Compassion is more than just a nice idea. It's a way of being. It's not merely a feeling that arises when we see someone in pain, nor is it a fleeting thought we have when we hear about a tragedy. True compassion, when practiced deeply, is the ability to see others as they are, to understand their suffering, and to respond with kindness and care. In Buddhism, compassion is known as karuna, one of the core practices that guide the way of life. It teaches us that suffering is an inevitable part of being human, but we don't have to face it alone. Every single one of us is touched by pain, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental. Yet instead of retreating or closing off from others, we have the opportunity to open our hearts and extend a hand. The power of small acts of compassion. You might wonder, what can I do? How can I possibly make a difference in such a vast, complicated world? The truth is, we all can make a difference. It starts with one small act, one moment of understanding, whether it's listening to a friend who's struggling, offering a kind word to a stranger, or simply holding space for someone to be heard. Each act of compassion ripples out. It's not about grand gestures. It's about consistency. It's about choosing, day in and day out, to act with love and kindness, even in the smallest of ways. In our busy lives, it's easy to become wrapped up in our own struggles, to get so caught up in our thoughts and agendas that we forget to look around and see the needs of others. Compassion begins by shifting our focus. It begins with taking a moment to step out of our own world and notice the people around us. You don't have to look far to find someone in need of compassion. It could be the person sitting next to you, the colleague who seems withdrawn, or even the people on the streets you walk by every day. The ripple effect of compassion. Compassion is like a muscle. The more we exercise it, the stronger it becomes. And just like any muscle, it brings profound benefits, not only to the people we help, but also to ourselves. When we act with compassion, we dissolve the boundaries between ourselves and others. We stop seeing people as separate from us. Instead, we recognize the common thread that connects us all. We all experience suffering, we all experience joy, and we all long for peace and happiness. When we realize this, we no longer view others as strangers or burdens. We see them as fellow travelers on the same journey. Compassion also teaches us to be kind to ourselves. Too often we are our harshest critics, beating ourselves up for our flaws and mistakes. But if we are to extend compassion to others, we must first offer that same compassion to ourselves. Self-compassion, the first step. To live with compassion, we must first offer it to ourselves. We must recognize that we too are deserving of love and understanding. This isn't about letting ourselves off the hook for our mistakes or shortcomings. It's about recognizing that we are human, and to be human is to err, to grow, and to learn. In moments of difficulty or self-doubt, ask yourself, what would it look like to treat myself with the same kindness that I offer to others? Sometimes, the most compassionate thing we can do for ourselves is to forgive, to accept, and to allow ourselves to rest. This self-compassion is not selfish. It's an essential part of being able to give to others. We cannot pour from an empty cup. When we live with compassion, we also become more attuned to the world around us. We begin to see the interconnectedness of all things. We understand that the suffering of one is the suffering of all, and with that understanding comes the motivation to help alleviate that suffering in whatever way we can, through our words, actions, or even our thoughts. Compassion as a reciprocal gift. You may have noticed that compassion isn't just about giving, it's also about receiving. When we are open to offering kindness and care to others, we create space for that same kindness to return to us. The more we give, the more we receive, not necessarily in material ways, but in emotional and spiritual richness. The connections we build with others through compassion create a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a feeling of being part of something greater than ourselves. But sometimes, showing compassion can feel like an uphill battle. We live in a world that often prioritizes self-interest over the well-being of others. We live in a society that tells us to look out for number one, to compete, to be better, to climb higher. Compassion, in this context, can seem like a weakness, an afterthought. But in truth, compassion is a great strength. It requires courage. It requires vulnerability to open our hearts and risk feeling the pain of others. Compassion challenges our assumptions and asks us to put aside our egos, transforming our relationships and our world. When we cultivate compassion, we begin to transform not only our relationships with others, but also our relationship with the world. We stop seeing life as something we need to fight against, and instead we begin to see it as something we can contribute to. In every moment, we have the opportunity to choose. Will we act with compassion, or will we close ourselves off in fear, indifference, or anger? The choice is always ours, and though it may not always be easy, the more we choose compassion, the more natural it becomes. In the end, it's not the amount of wealth we accumulate, or the titles we earn, or the goals we achieve that matter most. What truly matters is the way we treat one another, the kindness we offer, and the love we share. Compassion is the compass that can guide us through the complexities of life. It is the thread that connects us all, the force that makes us human, living with compassion. When we live with compassion, we wake up to the world in a new way. We see through the illusion of separateness and embrace the beauty of our shared experience. And in that embrace, we find peace, connection, and meaning. As you move through your day, take a moment to ask yourself, how can I show compassion today? How can I open my heart, not just to others, but to myself as well? Because in doing so, we begin to create a world that is kinder, more connected, and more peaceful. And that is the greatest gift we can give to ourselves and to the world. From reaction to response. Training the mind with wisdom, life often feels like a series of unpredictable events, each moment throwing something new at us. Whether it's an unexpected phone call, an angry comment, or an unplanned setback, it seems like the world is always pushing us to react. And react we do, often without thinking. In those moments we feel the rush of emotions, the heat of frustration, the sting of hurt, or the tension of fear. But in each of these moments we are given a choice. We can react or we can respond. The difference between reacting and responding is subtle but powerful. The power of responding with mindfulness. When we react, we are swept up by our emotions and impulses. Our thoughts race, and we act without fully considering the consequences. It's like being caught in a storm. Everything feels chaotic, and we struggle to find our footing. But when we respond, we do so from a place of mindfulness. We pause, take a breath, and observe the situation with clarity. We become aware of our emotions without letting them control us. We choose how we want to engage, rather than being driven by the forces around us. This ability to respond instead of react is one of the most valuable skills we can cultivate. And it's something that Buddhism teaches us to do. The Buddhist teachings remind us that while we cannot control the events of our lives, we can control how we meet them. The way we respond to life's challenges shapes the quality of our experience and the peace we find within ourselves. Mindfulness, breaking free from habitual reactions. The first step in learning to respond, rather than react, is becoming aware of our thoughts and feelings. Most of the time, we don't even notice how quickly we react. Someone says something hurtful, and before we know it, we've already said something back. The moment passes, but the impact lingers. This is because our minds are often on autopilot, running patterns we've developed over a lifetime. These patterns are shaped by our past experiences, our fears, desires, and conditioning. To break free from these patterns, we need to develop mindfulness, the practice of observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment. When we are mindful, we can see the triggers that cause our reactions. We begin to notice the tightness in our chest when we feel threatened, or the quickening of our breath when anger rises. By simply observing these physical sensations, we create a space between the stimulus and our response. In that space, we can choose how to react, or whether to react at all. Mindfulness also helps us recognize when we are acting from a place of fear, insecurity, or ego. So often our reactions come from a desire to protect ourselves or prove something to others. We lash out because we fear being misunderstood, or we hold back because we fear rejection. But when we are mindful, we can step back from these fears and see the situation more clearly. Responding with compassion for ourselves and others, we can respond with compassion, not just for others but for ourselves as well. Compassion is at the heart of wise responses. Instead of reacting with judgment or criticism, we can respond with understanding. We can look at the person who has hurt us and remember that they too are human, flawed and struggling, just like we are. We can look at a difficult situation and see it as an opportunity for growth, rather than something to avoid or fight against. The Buddha taught that we are not our emotions. Our emotions come and go, like waves in the ocean, but they do not define us. When we react impulsively, we identify with our emotions, believing that we are angry, frustrated, or sad. But when we practice mindfulness, we can see that we are the awareness behind those emotions. We are the calm in the storm. This perspective gives us the power to respond from a place of wisdom, rather than being at the mercy of our immediate impulses. Mindfulness, an ongoing practice. This practice of mindfulness, of being awake to the present moment, is not something you need to force. It's not about constantly trying to be perfect or controlling every thought. It's about gently bringing yourself back to the present when your mind wanders, which it will. It's about noticing the thoughts and feelings that arise without getting caught up in them. It's about letting life unfold naturally without trying to manipulate or control it. Think of it like walking through a beautiful forest. At first, you may be focused on the path ahead, worried about stumbling or getting lost. But as you become more comfortable, you start to notice the trees, the sounds of the birds, the way the light filters through the leaves. You begin to relax into the journey, trusting that you are exactly where you need to be. This is how life can be when we live mindfully, more relaxed, more trusting, more present. The beauty of this practice is that it doesn't matter what your life looks like on the outside. You may face challenges, hardships, or moments of uncertainty. But when you are awake to the present moment, you are not defined by your circumstances. You are not overwhelmed by your thoughts or emotions. Instead, you find a deep sense of peace within, no matter what is happening around you. Living fully in the present moment. So as you go through your daily life, remember this. You don't have to wait for something special to happen to feel alive. You're already alive. Every breath you take, every step you make, is an opportunity to wake up. It's an opportunity to be present and experience life fully. This is the beauty of Buddhist wisdom. It teaches us that true peace doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from within. It comes from our ability to be present, to accept things as they are, and to find joy in the simple moments of life. Mindfulness, a light that shines on others. But waking up isn't always easy. Life pulls us in many directions. Our minds get distracted, and our old habits take over. We find ourselves caught up in worry, stress, and fear. But remember, each time you notice this, it's not a failure. It's an opportunity to return to the present moment. Each time you bring yourself back to mindfulness, you are growing stronger. You are carrying the flame of awareness forward. And this flame is not just for you. It's a light that can shine on others as well. When you live with awareness and presence, you naturally become a source of peace for those around you. Your calmness, your kindness, your ability to listen without judgment, all of this becomes a gift to those who cross your path. This is the power of mindfulness. It doesn't just transform you, it transforms the world around you. A lifelong journey. As we reach the end of this journey, I want to remind you of something important. Waking up is not a destination. It's a lifelong journey. There will be moments when you feel fully awake, and there will be moments when you feel lost in the chaos of life. But remember, both are part of the process. Each moment is a chance to return to the present, to wake up once again. And each time you do, you are living more fully, more consciously. You may never have all the answers, but you don't need them. What you need is to stay present, to continue practicing mindfulness, and to trust that life will unfold as it should. The more you embrace the present, the more you will discover the peace that comes from within. So, as you continue on this path, know that you are not alone. There are countless others walking the same journey, seeking to wake up and live with greater awareness and presence. Together we are learning how to live fully and carry this flame of mindfulness forward, lighting the way for others. Thank you for being part of this journey. May your life be filled with peace, awareness, and the joy of being fully awake every single day. Remember, life is short. Wake up now. Live fully. Stay present. Carry the flame of awareness forward. This is the trap of time's illusion. We're always waiting for something, waiting for the next chapter in our lives, for change, for fulfillment. But what if you stopped waiting? What if you learned to live fully in the now, without constantly seeking the next thing? What if you could find joy in the small everyday experiences, like sipping a cup of tea in the morning, taking a walk in the park, or having a meaningful conversation with a friend? Buddhism teaches us that true happiness doesn't come from chasing after the future, but from embracing the present moment. When we live in the now, we are free. We're no longer bound by the ticking clock, by the constant pressure to achieve or be somewhere else. We're simply here, experiencing life as it is. By learning to live in the present, we begin to see time in a new light. We stop seeing it as something we're losing, and instead, we start to appreciate it for what it truly is, something we are living, not racing against. Time becomes not a source of stress, but a source of freedom. So take a moment to reflect. How do you spend your time? Are you racing against the clock, waiting for something to change, or are you embracing each moment as it comes? Remember, time is not your enemy. It's not something you need to fight. It's like a river flowing, and you're part of that flow. By learning to live in harmony with time, you begin to experience life in a whole new way. You wake up to the beauty of the present, and in doing so, you wake up to life itself. Now think back to that clock the next time you feel the urge to check the time. Pause. Instead of seeing the clock as a reminder of what you must do, see it as a reminder of the gift that each moment is. Time is not something to control or fear. It's something you can learn to live with mindfulness and awareness. The clock is ticking, but so is life. Don't let it pass by unnoticed. Wake up to the present, and you'll find that time isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to be embraced. Live fully, and you'll discover that every moment is enough. Suffering in the still point, understanding dukkha in daily life. In life, there's one thing we all have in common: suffering. No matter our background, our circumstances, or our age, suffering is something we all experience, and yet most of us try to avoid it at all costs, thinking that suffering is a sign of failure or weakness. But here's the truth. Suffering is not something to be ashamed of. It's a natural part of being human. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a calm lake. The water is still, reflecting the sky perfectly. But beneath the surface, there are unseen currents pulling in different directions. The surface might look peaceful, but underneath, there's constant movement. Life feels like that sometimes. On the surface, everything may seem fine. We go about our routines, smiling, working, interacting with others. But deep inside, many of us are struggling with dissatisfaction, fear, or longing. These currents of suffering are always there, sometimes just below the surface, sometimes overwhelming us. In Buddhism, this concept of suffering is called dukkha. It's often translated as suffering, but it goes deeper than that. It refers to the feeling of dissatisfaction that arises from the impermanence of life. No matter how much we try to hold on to things, relationships, jobs, even our own health, everything changes. And because of this, we experience a sense of unease. Nothing stays the same. Our desires, attachments, and expectations create a constant feeling of wanting something more or different. That's dukkha. But here's the key. Suffering isn't something we need to run from. In fact, it's through understanding our suffering that we begin to find the path to peace. Buddhism teaches us that the first step to liberation is acknowledging dukkha, the truth of suffering. By accepting that suffering is part of life, we can begin to break free from the cycle of trying to escape it. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself resisting something painful or uncomfortable? Maybe it's an emotion like sadness or anger, or maybe it's an external situation, like a problem at work or in a relationship. When we resist, we only make the suffering worse. It's like fighting against the current in that lake. The more we struggle, the harder it is to stay afloat. But what happens if we stop resisting? What if we allow ourselves to feel the pain, the discomfort, the frustration, without judgment? It's not about liking the suffering or welcoming it, but about acknowledging it and allowing it to exist without trying to change it. This is where the still point comes in. It's the moment of acceptance, the place where we stop fighting against the flow of life. When we understand that suffering is part of life, we can begin to approach it with a different mindset. Instead of reacting with fear or frustration, we respond with mindfulness and compassion. We don't need to escape our pain. When we stop resisting, we learn to ride the waves of life with grace. This doesn't mean we should simply accept all forms of suffering without trying to improve our situation. It doesn't mean we stop striving for a better life. But it does mean that we stop expecting life to be perfect. We stop clinging to the idea that happiness comes from avoiding suffering altogether. Happiness in Buddhism comes not from seeking pleasure or avoiding pain, but from learning to be at peace with whatever arises. It's about being fully present in every moment, whether it's filled with joy or pain, without attachment or aversion. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. How many times have you chased after something, believing that once you have it, everything will be perfect? Maybe it was a new job, a new house, or a new relationship. But even when you get what you want, there's often a sense of emptiness that follows. The excitement fades, and before long, you find yourself wanting more. This is the nature of desire. It's never truly satisfied. We always want something else. But what if the answer isn't in constantly chasing after more? What if happiness doesn't come from achieving things outside ourselves, but from finding contentment in what we already have? This is the profound wisdom that Buddhism teaches. It's not about denying our desires, but about recognizing them for what they are, fleeting and impermanent. When we let go of our attachment to these desires, we free ourselves from the cycle of suffering. When we sit with our pain, instead of running from it, we begin to see it for what it truly is. We realize that suffering isn't a personal flaw or something to be ashamed of. It's a natural part of being human. And in this understanding, there is freedom. This is the path to peace. It's not about avoiding the storms of life, but about learning how to find calm within them. When we stop resisting the natural flow of life, we start to experience each moment as it truly is. Life is full of beauty and pain, joy and sorrow. Suffering isn't something to fear. It's something to understand, to transform. As you move forward on this path, remember, suffering doesn't have to define us. It doesn't have to control us. Through mindfulness, awareness, and compassion, we can learn to live with suffering without letting it overwhelm us. It's not about escaping pain. It's about embracing the full range of human experience with an open heart and a clear mind. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom, seeing life for what it truly is, without fear or attachment, and with deep understanding. The still point isn't a place of denial or escape. It's a place of acceptance and peace. It's the calm at the center of the storm. It's the realization that, no matter how turbulent life may seem, we have the ability to remain grounded, present, and move through life with grace. In this space of acceptance, we find true freedom. Suffering in the still point, understanding dukkha in daily life. In life, there's one thing we all have in common: suffering. No matter our age, background, or situation, suffering is universal. And yet most of us try to avoid it at all costs, thinking that suffering is a sign of failure or weakness. But here's the truth. Suffering is not something to be ashamed of. It's an intrinsic part of the human experience. Imagine standing at the edge of a calm lake. The water is still, reflecting the sky above. But beneath the surface, currents are moving unseen. If you dive in, you can feel the pull of those currents, tugging you in different directions. The surface may appear peaceful, but beneath it, there's constant movement. This is how life feels sometimes. On the surface, everything may look fine. We go about our routines, smiling, working, interacting with others. But deep inside, many of us are struggling with feelings of dissatisfaction, longing, or fear. These currents of suffering are always there, sometimes just beneath the surface, sometimes overwhelming us. In Buddhism, this concept of suffering is called dukkha. It's often translated as suffering, but it's much deeper than that. It refers to the discontent or dissatisfaction that arises from the impermanence of life. No matter how much we try to hold on to things, whether it's a relationship, a job, or even our health, everything changes. And with this change comes a sense of unease. Nothing stays the same. Our desires, attachments, and expectations create a constant feeling of wanting more or something different. This is dukkha. Here's the key, though. Suffering is not something we need to run from. In fact, it's through understanding our suffering that we begin to find the path to peace. Buddhism teaches that the first step to liberation is acknowledging the truth of dukkha. By accepting that suffering is a natural part of life, we can break free from the cycle of trying to escape it. Think about how many times you've found yourself resisting something painful or uncomfortable. Maybe it was an emotion like sadness or anger, or maybe it was an external situation, like a problem at work or in a relationship. When we resist, we only intensify the suffering. It's like fighting against the current in that lake. The more we struggle, the harder it is to stay afloat. But what happens if we stop resisting? What if we allow ourselves to feel the pain, the discomfort, the frustration, without judgment? It's not about liking the suffering or welcoming it, but about acknowledging it and allowing it to exist without trying to change it. This is where the still point comes in, the moment of acceptance. It's when we stop fighting against the flow of life. By understanding that suffering is a part of life, we can approach it with a different mindset. Instead of reacting with fear or frustration, we can respond with mindfulness and compassion. We don't need to escape our pain. When we stop resisting, we learn to ride the waves of life with grace. This doesn't mean we should accept all suffering without striving to improve our situation. It doesn't mean we stop working toward a better life. But it does mean we stop expecting life to be perfect. We stop clinging to the idea that happiness comes from avoiding suffering altogether. Happiness in Buddhism is found by being at peace with whatever arises. It's not about seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. It's about being present, fully alive, in the moment. Happiness in Buddhism is about learning to be at peace with whatever arises. It's not about seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. It's about being present with both, without attachment or aversion. Think for a moment about your own life. How many times have you chased after something, believing that once you have it, everything will fall into place? Maybe it was a new job, a new house, or a new relationship. Yet even after we get what we want, there often comes a sense of emptiness. The excitement fades, and we find ourselves wanting more. This is the nature of desire. It's never fully satisfied. We always want something else, something more. But what if the answer isn't in constantly seeking more? What if happiness doesn't lie in external achievements, but in finding contentment with what we already have? This is the wisdom of Buddhism. It's not about denying our desires, but recognizing them as fleeting and impermanent. When we let go of our attachment to desires, we free ourselves from the cycle of suffering. When we sit with our pain, rather than run from it, we begin to understand it for what it truly is. Suffering is not a personal flaw. It's a natural part of the human condition. And in understanding this, there is freedom. We no longer have to be afraid of our own pain. We can embrace it with compassion and allow it to teach us. This is the path to peace. It's not about avoiding life's storms, but about learning to find calm in the middle of them. When we stop resisting, we start to experience life as it truly is, moment by moment, with all of its beauty and pain, its joy and sorrow. We realize that suffering is not something to fear, but something to understand and transform. As we move forward on this path, remember, suffering doesn't have to define us. It doesn't have to control us. Through mindfulness, awareness, and compassion, we can learn to live with suffering without letting it take over our lives. It's not about escaping pain. It's about embracing the full range of human experience with an open heart and a clear mind. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom, seeing life as it truly is, without fear, without attachment, and with deep understanding. The still point is not a place of denial or escape. It is a place of acceptance and peace. It's the calm at the center of the storm. It's the realization that no matter how turbulent life may seem, we have the ability to remain grounded, to remain present, and to move through life with wisdom and grace. And in this space of acceptance, we find true freedom. The mirror of aging, embracing impermanence. With grace, as we grow older, something subtle begins to happen. We start noticing the changes in ourselves. Our hair thins, our skin loses its firmness. We begin to see creases where there once were none. One day, we might look in the mirror and ask, where did the time go? But this moment is the beginning of a profound realization. Our bodies are not permanent, and neither is life itself. In Buddhism, we call this impermanence, a central teaching that reminds us that everything, every moment, every person, and every experience will eventually change or pass away. This truth can be unsettling, but it can also be incredibly freeing. When we truly understand impermanence, we stop clinging so tightly to things that will not last. The reality of aging is something many of us try to avoid thinking about. We may try to slow it down with creams or treatments to preserve youth. But what if instead of fighting aging, we chose to embrace it? What if we saw the wrinkles on our faces not as signs of decline, but as symbols of wisdom earned over the years? What if we learned to appreciate each gray hair, each laugh line, as a marker of a life fully lived? Aging doesn't have to be a source of fear or sadness. In fact, it can be a beautiful process, one that allows us to deepen our understanding of life itself. In Buddhism, There's a concept known as the impermanence of the body. Our bodies are constantly changing. In a way, they are not even truly ours. They are temporary vessels for the mind and spirit. They are always in a state of flux, and we cannot hold on to them forever, just as we cannot hold on to anything in this world. But here's the crucial part. This impermanence is not something to fear. It's something to accept. When we accept that our bodies will change and eventually fade, we can shift our focus. Instead of clinging to external appearances, we can turn inward. We can focus on cultivating inner peace, wisdom, and compassion. We can deepen our relationships, not with the mirror or the fleeting image of youth, but with the people we love and with ourselves. Consider this. As we age, we gain perspective. We've lived long enough to understand that not everything is as it first appears. We've seen enough of life to know that things are always changing, sometimes for the better, sometimes not. But with each passing year, we become more capable of handling whatever life throws our way. The wisdom that comes with age is priceless. It helps us navigate life's ups and downs with a calm, clear mind. This is where Buddhism offers incredible insight. The Buddha taught that aging, sickness, and death are inevitable parts of life. We cannot escape them. But instead of dreading these natural processes, we can learn to meet them with acceptance and grace. The Buddha himself was not immune to the ravages of age. He too grew old and experienced the natural decline of his body. Yet through his teachings, he showed us that our true nature is not defined by our physical body. Our true nature is beyond form. It is the mind, the heart, and the spirit that define us, not our outward appearance. So how do we embrace aging with grace? First, we must stop fighting against it. When we accept that we are not in control of time, we can begin to relax into it. Instead of constantly trying to slow down the clock, we can start living in harmony with it. We can appreciate the present moment, knowing that it is precious and fleeting. We can spend our time doing what truly matters, connecting with others, sharing our wisdom, and nurturing our inner peace. Another key to embracing aging with grace is letting go of our attachment to youth. Society places so much value on youth, beauty, and physical perfection. We're bombarded with images of flawless skin, fit bodies, and youthful energy. But the truth is, these things are fleeting. No matter how hard we try, we cannot stop the process of aging. But we can shift our focus to what truly matters. We can embrace the beauty of a life well lived, rich with experiences, memories, and lessons learned. When we let go of our attachment to the physical body and its outward appearance, we free ourselves from the constant pressure to look or feel young. We can allow ourselves to age with dignity and grace, knowing that we are so much more than our bodies. We are our thoughts, our actions, and our relationships. We are the love we give and the wisdom we share. These are the things that define us, not how we look in the mirror. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. How often do we wish for things to be different? How often do we wish we could turn back time or regain the energy of our youth? These thoughts are natural, but they are also rooted in attachment. Attachment to a version of ourselves that no longer exists. What if instead of wishing things were different, we chose to appreciate the here and now? What if we could look in the mirror and say, "This is who I am, and I am at peace with it"? One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is the practice of mindfulness. Through mindfulness, we learn to be present with ourselves just as we are. We stop wishing for things to be different, and we simply accept the reality of the present moment. including accepting our aging bodies, when we can be fully present with ourselves, without judgment or regret. We cultivate a deep sense of peace. Aging is not a curse, it is a gift. It's a gift because it offers us the opportunity to grow, to reflect, and to share the wisdom we have gained with others. As we age, we are given more chances to practice patience, kindness, and compassion. We are given the chance to understand that life is fleeting and that every moment is precious. With this awareness, we can live more fully, more intentionally, and with greater love. So let us embrace aging with grace and gratitude. Let us look in the mirror and see not just the body, but the person we have become, the person who has lived, learned, and loved. Let us celebrate the changes that come with age, for they are reminders of our growth and transformation. And let us remember that the true essence of who we are is not defined by our physical appearance, but by the love and wisdom we carry in our hearts. Craving less, living more, the noble truths and practice. We live in a world that constantly urges us to want more, be more, and have more. Everywhere we turn, there's a new desire planted in our hearts, a new craving that promises to fill a gap we may not even know exists. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why do we crave so much? Why do we feel incomplete, as if we need something outside ourselves to finally feel at peace? Buddhism teaches us that craving is at the root of our suffering. This is what we call dukkha, suffering. It's not just physical pain, but the deep dissatisfaction that comes from constantly wanting more, from chasing after things we believe will make us happy. Yet no matter how much we acquire, there's always something else we think we need. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes. No matter how much we pour in, it's never full. Imagine you've worked hard all week. You've earned money, bought new things, and perhaps even traveled to a place you've always wanted to go. At first you feel great, accomplished, excited, and proud of what you've gained. But as time passes, the excitement fades. The newness wears off. The things you've acquired lose their shine, and soon that empty space reappears, and you crave more experiences, more possessions, more attention, more comfort. It's a cycle, a pattern that keeps repeating itself. And in the end, what do we really gain? The Buddha understood this very well. He saw that humans are constantly stuck in this cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. No matter what we get, we are never truly satisfied. So he taught us the Four Noble Truths, which form the foundation of Buddhist practice. The first truth is simple. Suffering exists. The second truth reveals why suffering is caused by craving, our constant desire for things to be different than they are. The third truth offers hope. There's an end to suffering, and it comes from letting go of craving. It sounds simple, right? If craving causes suffering, just stop craving, and the suffering will end. But if it were that easy, we'd all be at peace by now, wouldn't we? The truth is, letting go of cravings takes practice. It requires awareness and understanding. It asks us to shift our mindset, to stop viewing the world as something we need to control or possess. The Buddha taught us that true peace comes when we stop wanting things to be different than they are. Let's take a moment to reflect. When was the last time you felt truly satisfied with what you had? When did you last look around and think, this is enough? It's not often, is it? We're always looking for something more, something bigger, something better. But in doing so, we miss out on the beauty of the present moment. We miss out on the joy of simply being, without the need to chase the next thing. The practice of letting go of craving doesn't mean we have to stop wanting things altogether. It means shifting our relationship with our desires. We stop seeing them as the key to our happiness. We begin to understand that true contentment doesn't come from acquiring more. It comes from appreciating what we already have. The Buddha often spoke about the middle path, the way of balance. It's not about renouncing everything and living in complete austerity, nor is it about indulging in every desire that comes our way. It's about finding a balanced approach to life, where we can enjoy what we have without becoming attached to it. We can appreciate the beauty of a new possession without letting it define our happiness. We can enjoy a delicious meal without feeling the need to overindulge in order to feel complete. This balance is the key to overcoming craving and finding lasting peace. Think about it. How much of your life is spent running after things that don't really bring lasting happiness? How many hours do you spend working, accumulating, and striving, only to feel just as empty as before? What if instead of craving more, you simply allowed yourself to be content with what you already have? What if you could let go of the pressure to keep up with others and rest in the present moment, appreciating what you have right now? This doesn't mean we should stop striving for personal growth or improvement. It doesn't mean we should stop working hard or trying to make the world a better place. But it does mean we stop tying our happiness to external outcomes. When we learn to let go of the craving for more, we open ourselves up to a deeper sense of peace. We begin to experience life as it is, beautiful, imperfect, and enough. Buddhist teachings remind us that true happiness isn't found in possessions or achievements. It's found in the peace that comes from within, from letting go of our attachment to things and opening ourselves to the present moment. The more we let go of cravings, the more we experience life with ease and joy. As we walk through our busy lives, let's pause and reflect on our cravings. Are they serving us? Are they bringing us closer to peace? Or are they keeping us trapped in a cycle of dissatisfaction? If we want to live more fully, we need to let go of the idea that more will make us happy. We need to learn to appreciate the present moment and find contentment in the here and now. And now, remember, life is too short to live in a constant state of craving. We have the power to choose how we relate to our desires. We can learn to appreciate what we have, to let go of the need for more, and to live in a way that brings us lasting peace and contentment. Next time you find yourself longing for something more, ask yourself, do I really need it? Or am I just trying to fill a space that can only be filled by letting go? The more we practice letting go of our cravings, the more we open ourselves to the true joy of living. In doing so, we begin to awaken to the beauty of the life we already have. Letting go of what no longer serves, life like a river. Life like a river is constantly flowing. The waters move forward, never staying in one place for too long. Similarly, we are constantly changing, evolving, and shifting. Yet how often do we find ourselves holding on to things, thoughts, feelings, habits, relationships that no longer serve us? These things act like rocks in the river, blocking the natural flow of life. The problem is, we don't always realize these rocks are there. We cling to them, not knowing that they are weighing us down. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you held on to something that was no longer helpful? Maybe it was a grudge, an old fear, or a dream that no longer fits your reality. We hold on to these things for so long that they become part of who we think we are. But just because something has been with us for a long time doesn't mean it's good for us. Buddhism teaches us that attachment is a key cause of suffering. The more we cling to things, whether they are people, possessions, or even our thoughts, the more pain we experience when those things inevitably change or disappear. Everything in life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same forever. When we refuse to let go of things that have served their purpose, we create unnecessary suffering for ourselves. Imagine holding on to a heavy bag full of rocks. At first, the weight may seem manageable, but over time, it becomes harder and harder to carry. Eventually, you get so used to carrying it that you forget it's there. You might even start thinking you need the weight to feel grounded. But if you ever took a moment to look inside that bag, you'd see that the rocks are no longer useful. They're just holding you back. This is exactly what happens when we refuse to let go of things that no longer serve us. Whether it's a painful memory, a negative belief about ourselves, or a relationship draining our energy, we continue to carry it even when it's no longer helpful. The truth is, we don't have to carry that weight. We can choose to let go, release what no longer serves us, and make space for something new. Letting go is not always easy. It can feel terrifying. We are creatures of habit, and change often brings discomfort. We fear the unknown, and letting go of something familiar can feel like losing a part of ourselves. But the reality is, we are not our attachments. We are not the things we hold on to, nor are we our past mistakes or hurts. We are much more than that. Buddhism teaches us that true freedom comes when we release our attachments. It's like cleaning out a cluttered room. When we let go of the old used items, the space becomes open, clear, and ready to be filled with something new. In the same way, when we let go of our attachments, we free ourselves to embrace the present moment and all the possibilities it brings. Mindfulness and the power of letting go. One of the most powerful practices in Buddhism is mindfulness. Through mindfulness, we become more aware of what we are holding on to. We begin to notice the thoughts, emotions, and habits that are weighing us down. Once we become aware, we can start the process of releasing them. Letting go isn't about forcing ourselves to release things. It's about gently observing and allowing the process to unfold naturally. Letting go also means forgiveness. Forgiveness is a powerful tool in releasing the past and moving forward. When we hold on to resentment or anger, we are the ones who suffer. The other person may not even be aware of the hurt they've caused, but we continue to carry the pain. In Buddhism, forgiveness is seen as a gift we give to ourselves, not to the other person. It's a way of freeing ourselves from the grip of negative emotions, allowing us to live with more peace and compassion. Another important aspect of letting go is understanding that life is constantly changing. We may hold on to things because we think they will bring us security or happiness, but nothing in life is permanent. The people we love, the possessions we cherish, and even our own health, all are subject to change. This is not something to fear, but something to embrace. When we understand the impermanent nature of life, we can begin to let go of our attachments and live more fully in the present. Letting go for growth. In practical terms, letting go might look like releasing old habits that no longer serve us. Perhaps we've been holding on to a belief that we're not good enough, or that we're too old to change. Letting go of these limiting beliefs allows us to step into a new reality, one where we're free to grow, learn, and create the life we truly want. It might also mean letting go of a toxic relationship or a job that no longer brings us fulfillment. When we release what no longer serves us, We make room for new opportunities that are aligned with our true self. The process of letting go is not a one-time event. It's a continuous practice. As we move through life, we'll encounter new things to release. The key is to stay mindful and be willing to let go of what no longer serves us, no matter how attached we may feel. With each release, we become freer, more peaceful, and more open to the beauty of the present moment. The middle way. Finding balance in a fast-paced world. The world we live in is often described as fast, overwhelming, and filled with extremes. We chase after success, wealth, and status, thinking they'll bring us happiness. But how often do we reach those goals only to find ourselves empty, feeling like something is missing? On the other hand, some of us swing to the other extreme, choosing to escape from everything, hoping peace can be found in isolation, or giving up on striving altogether. Both extremes seem to lead to frustration, confusion, and dissatisfaction. But what if there's another way? A way that doesn't require us to chase endlessly or give up entirely. This is what Buddhism calls the middle way, a path that avoids extremes and finds balance in the middle. The middle way isn't about finding a perfect middle ground, like a balancing act. It's not about staying stuck in the same place. It's about living with awareness of where we are, what we need, and how to move forward in harmony with ourselves and the world. It's about avoiding excess, but also avoiding deprivation. We don't need to overindulge, nor do we need to deprive ourselves. The middle way is about living in a way that is both full and content. Think of it like walking on a tightrope. On one side, there's the temptation to lean too far into the world's pressures, work, material desires, social expectations, constantly striving for more. On the other side, there's the urge to escape it all, to reject the world and run from its challenges. Both extremes can be dangerous, but when you find that center, that balance, the tightrope becomes easier to walk. Living the middle way requires us to face discomfort, challenge, and the unknown. But it offers a way to live with clarity and grace, free from the endless pursuit of more. The middle way is the path to true peace. Walking the middle way, finding balance in life. The middle way teaches us how to walk through life's challenges with roundedness, awareness, and calm. It's about understanding that life's difficulties are part of the process, not something to avoid. By embracing them, without running away or clinging too tightly, we find that we can live more fully. One of the most powerful aspects of the middle way is that it teaches us not to attach to any one way of being. We don't need to believe that happiness comes only through extreme effort or through withdrawing from life entirely. Instead, we learn that happiness arises when we let go of rigid expectations and find peace in simply being. It's about finding joy in the present moment, no matter how imperfect or unpredictable it may be. Reflecting on balance in your own life. Take a moment to consider how this idea of balance might look in your own life. Do you find yourself constantly chasing after success, thinking that if you work just a little harder, you'll be happy? Or do you sometimes retreat from everything, believing that peace can only be found in complete isolation? Both paths can leave us feeling dissatisfied, but the middle way invites us to try a different approach. In practical terms, living the middle way can mean finding balance in your daily routine. It might mean setting healthy boundaries with work and responsibilities, but not letting them take over your entire life. It could mean taking time for rest and self-care, but not using it as an excuse to disengage from the world completely. It's about knowing when to push forward and when to let go. It's about being kind to yourself, not expecting perfection, but also not resigning to a life of complacency. Living the middle way in health and relationships, one example that comes to mind is how we approach our health. Many of us go to extremes when trying to get healthier. We either overexert ourselves at the gym, pushing our bodies to the limit in pursuit of an ideal, or we avoid exercise altogether, convincing ourselves that it's too difficult or unnecessary. The middle way invites us to take a more balanced approach. Instead of pushing ourselves too hard, we can find a rhythm that feels good for our bodies, one that allows us to grow stronger without overburdening ourselves. It's about listening to our bodies and giving them what they need without the pressure to be perfect. Living in balance also means acknowledging that life is filled with both joys and struggles. The middle way teaches us not to reject either. In fact, it teaches us that both can coexist. Happiness doesn't come from avoiding pain or discomfort. It comes from finding peace within those challenges. Whether we are facing a tough time or enjoying a moment of joy, the middle way encourages us to stay grounded in the present, embracing each experience fully without being swept away by it. Balance in relationships and work. This balanced approach applies not only to personal growth, but also to our relationships with others. In relationships, we often swing between two extremes. Either we give too much of ourselves, losing our sense of self in the process, or we close off, becoming distant and unengaged. The middle way teaches us to find a healthy balance between connection and independence. We can love and care for others without losing ourselves in them, and we can be there for others without feeling overwhelmed or drained. In the workplace, the middle way encourages us to work hard and strive for success, but not to the point of burnout or neglecting our well-being. It's about working with purpose and intention, while also taking time to rest and recharge. We can be driven and ambitious, but we don't have to sacrifice our health for happiness in the process. The middle way as a continuous practice. The middle way is not a one-time decision. It's a practice, something that requires mindfulness every day. It's a continual effort to find balance, to stay aware of when we are tipping too far in one direction, and to gently guide ourselves back to the center. It's about checking in with ourselves regularly and asking, am I living in balance? Am I staying true to my values while navigating the complexities of the world around me? When we walk the middle way, we're not looking for a quick fix or an easy path. Instead, we're learning how to navigate life's challenges with grace, understanding, and patience. We're learning to embrace the full spectrum of life, its ups and downs, while remaining grounded in our sense of self and purpose. As we continue on this path, we begin to realize that balance doesn't mean perfection. It means being kind to ourselves when we fall off track, and gently steering ourselves back without judgment. It's about knowing that life is a journey, and the path is not always straight. Sometimes we may veer off course, but that's okay. The middle way teaches us that as long as we keep coming back to the center, we are living wisely. Bringing balance into your life, so ask yourself today, where can you bring more balance into your life? Where might you be swinging between extremes? Can you find a way to step back, breathe, and let go of the need for perfection? The middle way is here, ready to guide you to a life of peace, presence, and harmony. And remember, it's not about doing it perfectly. It's about doing it with intention and awareness. In a world that pulls us in all directions, the middle way offers a gentle, balanced path. It may not be the easiest path, but it is the one that leads to true peace and fulfillment. And in the end, that's what we all seek.